Remix. 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 Remix.
Amber, would you do the honors?
What it do, niggas?
Good morning, y'all. Take two. We have no idea what happened. So, trouble taking with StreamYard. This is what we're going to have to do. Welcome to the Friday Remix Morning Show. Amber and Lorik, your hosts here. Glad we were able to get those tech difficulties out the way. Go on and make your way into the room as we get started on our Friday Remix Morning Show. Okay, so
that camera's still freezing, but it's okay, Lord.
You know, hey, one thing at a time.
That was so weird. It definitely was not working, and I know y'all was like, "What are they doing?" It literally was doing nothing. Like nothing was working at all, and I was like, "Oh, they system don't work no more." I don't know what was going on. I said, "Fuck it." I was finna go back to sleep, but Lord said, "Let's reboot it." I said, "Okay."
I sure did. Amber is on camera. Hopefully, things are good. On our end, we're back.
You can't see my face?
I don't know. I think it might be it's a little blurry. It's a little blurry.
I don't know. I'm just not as close as I usually am to the camera. That's all.
We're making it work. All right, we could just jump in because we do have a guest coming at 9.
To do the stream. Be happy I showed up.
That's exactly how they should feel. We did have, let's see, a few stories that we could cover. Some were covered yesterday. What are you in the mood for, Amber? You want some Black women's history? You want some pop culture? Some Miami late capitalism hellscape shit? What are you into? How we want to get started today? Oh no, now Amber's frozen. It's a rough day. So Amber's lagging a little bit. Well, Amber
haven't said the thing.
We don't know, Amber. It's a rough day.
What's the lag if I'm not saying anything?
I'm not sure. Your camera's just frozen on screen.
Oh, fuck it. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we're doing our best. Okay, I'm going to let the chat choose. Someone said, take us to hell. So this is a story I've been seeing shared positively in my, in my ecosystem. So I'm very curious about it. And what will we think, some of us, with that radical class analysis about a story like this? So let me share my screen here about a Miami restaurateur who's getting a lot of praise for this act. Let it play for us.
Corner. That's what Matt Kusher calls the construction site at the corner of Miami Avenue and Northeast 20th Street, where he is rebuilding Kush Restaurant.
So right here is going to be our kitchen.
And to literally top it off, he's creating 10 studio apartments upstairs, affordable housing reserved for hospitality industry workers.
Centrally located so you can work in Wynwood, so hopefully all my employees are walking to work and living an amazing life.
Wynwood is booming. Miami is booming. But Kusher says too many are left out.
You know, we're building, and all the employees have nowhere to live because they're getting priced out. I'm hoping to start a movement and be the king of affordable housing and restaurant mixed use here in Miami. I want Kush and I want affordable housing to go hand in hand together.
The Community Redevelopment Agency invested in Kusher's project, so in return, he signed a contract to keep his restaurant here and keep the apartments affordable for 50 years.
Yeah, so the building was set to be demolished, and the reality is I'm a romantic at heart, and I wanted to keep the soul of Wynwood. That building has so much history. It's 100 years old. Whitey Bulger used to live up there.
It was a brothel for 30 years where you just find your little drink here and go upstairs to the apartments where they were. So a little bit Miami culture, a little Magic City.
The new Kush restaurant and the apartments will be ready to go in about 3 months on the site of the original Kush restaurant. But the brothel will remain a relic of history.
We're really excited to be at the Kush Corner.
So this is the so-called king. He wants to be king of affordable housing. And again, I think on its face, we talked about charity last week, Amber, and how it's used to maintain the status quo, not really change power dynamics. So what do you think when you hear a restaurateur is building affordable housing above his restaurant for employees? What does that sound like to you? Does that sound like a positive? Oh no. Amber, I don't know if you're here or not. It sounds like you're frozen at the moment. Lots of tech difficulties this morning, y'all. We're gonna try our best. And I'm gonna remove you at the moment, and you can come back on if your connection fixes. So it's just to Josh on the remix for now, y'all. And someone already pointed out what I'm worried about, which is this: company towns or affordable housing. Affordable only meaning a few hundred below market rate. So those are 2 points. Thank you, Bobcat, that I wanted to talk about. The idea of a company town, which was, it still happens, but Gilded Age capitalism, where the people who own the company, own the factory, own the means of production, then also built the grocery store that you bought your food from, the housing that you needed to survive, all of these things. Now, this person isn't saying that they're trying to buy a bunch of grocery stores and things like that. But what he is saying is that in this area of Miami, Wynwood, which is an arts district that's turned into a gentrified mess of commercial real estate, he's saying that workers can't afford to live there. So his plan is to build housing for workers. And I think this comment gets into the kind of problems that can create. And again, these already happened in the past with company towns. But can you imagine calling off work and your boss walking upstairs to your apartment to make sure you're home? I believe there's a story of Ford having somebody who worked in his company town, a family, and they didn't come to work. And either his foreman or him threw them out onto the street from the company housing. And so it might not be as dramatic as that, as watching a capitalist literally throw you out onto the street with your children. But that's kind of where I see this going as a problem. Yeah, it smells rotten. Absolutely. Anyone who wants to say they're going to be the king of affordable housing, it's a little scary to me. So some updates coming in from Miami. We are going to be joined by a guest at 9 today to discuss the WNBA labor contract. So stay tuned for that. Just going through some stories this morning as Amber's trying to get reconnected. So just some terrifying news out of Miami as usual. I wanted to get into this pop culture thing. It looks like Amber's back, so we can shift to that story next. Around sinners, because I know we're tired of sinners discourse. Amber, I'm gonna bring you on stage. Yeah, so graciously give his employees low interest payday loans too. Exactly. It's all of these things that are going to make you dependent. Because what happens if you can't have that job? What happens if you lose it for any reason, or you can't work at the Kush restaurant that week? You're in downtown Miami, isolated from any other affordable housing or mixed income, mixed use, whatever that's being called, housing in the area. So absolutely not.
It used to be a brothel for 30 years.
And it still will be. So that's we got to talk about the modern manifestations when you can't afford rent and you're in downtown Miami and you got a studio apartment, because that is how people are going to make ends meet. They're going to make it by any means necessary. If they got to trap out of that place, they will. If they got to do OnlyFans out of that studio, they will. So
people go for a lot of money. So
of course. And he's getting a labor force that's indebted to him. Right? You feel like this is the only place where you can work and afford to live. So terrifying story. If I were working in the service industry, I would avoid that if possible. I don't know. I would love to ask workers who've worked for Kush restaurants if they had good experiences. Maybe he's a great restaurant owner. Doesn't really matter. The power dynamics are the issue. And welcome back, Amber.
Latif said, Amber, you twisted your hair locks. They're just 2-strand twists. I don't have locks. Let's not get excited, everyone. I do 2-strand twists here and there sometimes. That's it.
Yep. So I saw these two videos responding to each other on some pop culture. So Amber, did you ever give your Sinners take? Because I feel like everybody has given it at this point. Are you interested in giving your Sinners take on the movie itself or the context around it, anything like that?
I mean, I don't know if people care about my take, but I like the movie. I like the soundtrack.
What do you think about the soundtrack? Because Renee's point would be that the white man Gorin and was a big part of like being on the title of that, even though we know Raphael Sadiq was a part of it too. So how do you
You
balance?
talking about Ludwig?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Raphael Sadiq was on some songs. Ludwig was on some songs, but also Raphael Sadiq did not sound good. So, like this whole like shock that he wasn't on these songs. Every time they had him in these live performances, I say he shouldn't have been singing. He don't sound good.
Well, he put the songs together. No, he wasn't
He put
singing
the songs
every.
together, but there's a difference. I write songs. I'm not
Yeah.
singing every song I write because they don't always sound good with me singing it. Or depending on if it's like a rap or something, I might not be the one rapping it. It might not be the style that I'm using. I didn't think he sounded the best live doing them songs. I think that he's a good writer. But the credits are different based off of like the stuff. Like Ludwig was like singing on a song, which is why he
Really?
was credited. Yeah. The Moon song or whatever. It's like like a slow, like creepy vibe, like a Halloween vibe. He was singing on that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Raphael, I don't think he's singing on anything. Unless if he is, it's like background vocals. And for folks who don't like know music industry stuff, they don't always credit background vocals because I've done background vocals. I didn't get credit for them. You usually get credit for production, writing, stuff like that. But I think that Raphael Sadiq wrote a lot of the songs. He just wasn't singing on a lot of them, which is why the credit wasn't the same. Like on the album, like the ones that has Ludwig's name on them, he's actually singing on them. And then I know some of them like people who write a song what somebody might say, I want to list you on the song. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I do think that Raphael Sadiq's songs that he wrote were better than the ones that Ludwig wrote, but Ludwig were good too. I really liked his, but it's not something I would listen to every day. I listen to the ones Raphael wrote all the time. Like I listen to the Center soundtrack all the time. I love a good score, so I'm always down to listen to it. So I think it just depends on your approach. But I really like the movie because I really like things that match history with what's the word? Things that match
Magic.
history with like
Surrealism,
fictional
fantasy.
folktale type stories. Because I know some people think that vampires are real. I don't believe they're real, but I do think that it's cool to talk about, and I like the different stuff around them. But that's just me. Brittany said background vocals should always get credited. So one thing I learned is that a lot of times they don't do that because there's a lot of people singing the background vocals. So like one of the songs that I did, I sang background vocals for the person who was singing verses, but like on all the choruses, there were about 13 of us. So they're not gonna credit 13 people.
Yeah, I see. No, you're the one who just taught me. I did not know Ludwig sang on it. You're right. It actually says that he sang on the song "I Lied to You" with Raphael Sadiq. So he co-wrote it with composer Ludwig. So there was some artistic collaboration, some labor there.
And I do think it's different when you compose versus write because like yesterday I wrote a song, right? But I didn't compose it. Someone else wrote the melody, the track, all that stuff, totally separate. And to me, it's more labor realistically. Like me writing something, I wrote the thing I wrote yesterday. Well, the thing I did yesterday, I wrote like 2 months ago. They had to write a track and a melody at the same time yesterday as they were hearing what I wrote. So like I do think it has more labor sometimes. It's like more labor intensive. And I do think that they're doing different things, right? Like you should be credited as a composer, you should be credited as a writer. I don't disagree with Brittany about crediting background vocals. I just think that when it has a lot of people on them, like if you're doing a lot of choral things or like gang vocals, which is a gang of people, I've literally done gang vocals with 20 people before of us like singing in a chorus type vibe. So like they're just not gonna credit all those people. And I just accepted that. I don't care. I'm not getting credit for the song anyways. So it doesn't matter to me. Like I wasn't gonna get paid from it. I wasn't gonna get my 1/35.2 cents from the song. So it doesn't matter.
I hear you. I do feel like it could just be like I'm personally somebody who likes to just know everyone involved. So even if it's on the Wikipedia page, I agree with Brittany. Like they should still get credited. But I hear you.
Yeah.
Like you're not in it for the revenue at all. Spotify's not breaking you off any from that. So I appreciate this. It's art's words. I know people might be tired of the multiple remixes covering the same topic over the past few days, but honestly appreciate all the different takes and POVs. I appreciate that about our network too. We have a general principles of unity, but we all come at it from different ways. Ear Doctor and Jackie had a conversation yesterday. And actually it's interesting because Ear Doctor talked about all the elements that people would want to focus on the film. So Amber taking us through music. I know set design was discussed as well. Even the film and the camera that he chose to shoot it in was something that different, film critics appreciated. So lots of elements, technical and political, that you can focus on. I did want to highlight, there are a lot of perspectives on this channel about that movie, and I think you should take them all in. So as I mentioned, and Jackie,
I didn't know there were other perspectives. I got to go watch yesterday.
I'm about to. So I wanted to go through just a few of them so people can see. But one example was the conversation with Brooke Obi on Root Work with Tandy, your co-host on Monday. So check that out. Black Girl Watching.
You said your co-host on Monday, like I don't know who she is.
Mm-hmm. I'm letting people know. It's for the audience. That's a good promo. So Tandy with Brooke Obi, Black Girl Watching. I read her review. It was very helpful. She had another great review of One Battle After Another. So check out Root Work and Tandy if you're interested in that perspective. There was a live show, the Newark show with Saturdays with Renee, that you can check out with Geechee and Tume and Jared. But shameless plug, I also did a review with them on this channel. So if you want to see that, the review crew did our Sinners review. That was last year, right? Yeah, almost a year ago, 10 months ago. So Jared and Tume, Renee, Geechee, and then your boy. So that's one perspective. I also wanted to highlight Dr. Sundiata does a news column, Real Talk, just like the program he has on Black Liberation Media, and he also did a review, Sinners, a Class Analysis. So just check out those perspectives. I think we all emphasize different things in our critiques and in our celebration of the film. So just wanted to highlight those things if you're interested in going down a rabbit hole of BLM reactions to Sinners, which we all did predict ahead of time was going to win some of these awards, right? So
that's so cool. I knew they were winning too.
Yeah, no question. Okay, but this was a take from the movie because, again, I was trying to highlight the takes that we appreciated or that can lead us into some, generative conversation about the film. So I liked this one because you've heard me potentially critique this around movies like Crazy Rich Asians. I think there's a parallel where they love to cast lighter-skinned, biracial, even white people for Black partners to be coupled with in film. And I actually have pointed out there's a parallel to that in Asian communities, specifically with Asian men who are often not cast as the love interest, or a similar thing to what we see in the Black community. They're often biracial Asian men who are cast as objects of desire, and usually biracial meaning Asian and white. Just like in Hollywood, biracial usually means Black and white as well. So thought this take was interesting. Let's check it out.
In Sinners. That hardly ever happens.
Sorry,
they were so fine.
I'll refresh it.
As two hot Asians who were married to each other in Sinners. That hardly ever happens. They were so fine and both actually liked each other. And this means a lot to me because in a lot of modern media, Bridgerton, Joy Luck Club was written by a Chinese woman. And basically all those girls chose white men. Asian men are never seeing themselves as the love interest for Asian women. And that's caused a lot of division in our community. Grace.
So I just want to start by saying, this sounds very much like critiques of Hollywood and mainstream media that I've heard from Black women, obviously. Mm-hmm. Why are we not seen as the object of desire for Black men, particularly Black women who look like the majority of Black women, right? And so I mentioned this about Wumi Musaku in the film and how, what's the term, libidinal economy, the economy of desire, like what we want to see on screen. Mm-hmm. That was very much through, I think this Asian couple was one example. I also think putting Michael B. Jordan across from Wumi Musaku is another example of that. Because obviously, while in our community, it's very easy to recognize Wumi is beautiful, right? for Hollywood, for the mainstream, she's exceptional almost. She's like a fetish that they can exploit of this beautiful, everyday, quote unquote, Black woman. So just important to look into that. What are these people tapped in with? So I think Ryan Coogler being tapped in with this desire in the Asian community, just like he was tapped into our desires as a Black community, is important. So let's continue.
Grace and Bo were fine as hell. Their daughter, Lisa, was hilarious. They all had these smooth Southern accents, no chopsticks in hair, no weirdness toward them from any of the Black characters. They were a fully integrated part of that community. Ryan Coogler hangs around Chinese people, and you can tell. I mean, his wife, Zinzi, has Chinese ancestry.
You rarely see same-race couples outside of white people in the media because it serves as a function of white supremacy. The way to destroy a community and subjugate its people is by getting them to see value in something outside of themselves. You don't see value in who you are or where you came from. It's easier for me to sell you my way of life. This essentially is how white supremacy has functioned at every level. Speak my language, not your language. Practice my religion, not your religion. Wear my clothes, not your clothes. See value in my women, not your women. The main tenets of figuring out how to subjugate a people is how to do it without force. How do you get people to subscribe to their own subjugation? Find things for them to desire within it. And one of the main ways that they're doing that right now is through the promotion of interracial relationships. You don't find the people in your community desirable. How can you maintain your heritage and history? You can't. That's the goal, right? Because the people who have forgotten themselves, they don't fight back because they don't know what they're fighting for. This is why people try to put so much hate on Black people, specifically Black women, because we protect not only ourselves, but our community so ferociously. We know that the goal is eradication, assimilation, and subjugation. This is the strategy that was used on the white people in Europe. This is the reason why they act the way that they act now. They don't remember their history. They don't remember their heritage. They don't remember their way of life. All they know is capitalism. Capitalism is their new identity. And whatever identity that capitalism allows them to create. Why gender theory and political identity is so important to them. They don't have any other identities to fall back on. They're too far gone. They're too far removed. What they end up doing is fighting for fragmented versions of reality. This is why it's so important for us as people of color to allow nothing else to be taken from us than what already was taken from us. Capitalism's goal is enmeshment and replacement. People with no identity can be sold one. This is why it's so important to show people of color as they are and not how white people wish that we would integrate into their society. Because white people allow their cultures to be enmeshed and stolen, and look how that turned out. It's all of our fates if we don't protect our culture and our people. Yes, it's important to depict people of color with people in their community because our communities are important. It is who we are. It is our identity. Because when you don't have identity, you go searching for identity. And capitalism comes along and sells you one.
Damn, I wish. Where's the bars drop? I need to find. See, I gotta get nice with the soundboard like Jared, but that was.
Now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
So that was the center's take that I wanted to hear. Those are the centers
really
I want to
good.
hear, y'all. That was dope. That was an element of the film I wanted to highlight. Very important. So, any other thoughts on that, Amber? What's your favorite TV interracial relationship? No, I'm just playing. What?
You're not funny. It's an interesting conversation because I was just talking yesterday about the whole. So like, my friends be judging me sometimes because I do ask people if they got 4 Black grandparents. I do not want to find out about a light-skinned granddaddy down the road that turned out to be white. It's just not some shit I'm into. But that's just me. But my friend, one of my friends who produces, he's Bahamian, but he is married to a white woman.
Oh, okay.
So I do be, you know, it's weird because I actually do fuck with his wife. She cool as hell, but he live in Knoxville, so he wasn't gonna be married to a Black woman anyways. So we letting it slide because I knew he wasn't even married to a Black woman. It ain't no Black people there for real.
That's correct.
Like, he's not around any Black people unless he's around me and our other friend. He's not around Black people, so I be letting it slide. But he was like, "Oh, you really be asking people that?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not marrying a white person, but also I'm not trying to find out there was white people in the lineage beyond slavery down the road or something too. Like, I need there to be 4 Black grandparents, maternal and paternal side. Like, I'm so serious." And he was like, "I just thought you'd be playing." Like, I was like, "No, I really ask those questions." And I think that we should be asking those questions because I only want to date Black people.
You only want to date Black people with 4 Black grandparents, is what you're saying.
Yes. So
Okay.
serious. I'm so serious.
That's
I
real.
literally had to ask a nigga that 2 weeks ago because he had matched with me on a dating site thingy, and he was fine, but he was a little light skinned. I'm not gonna hold you. He was looking brighter in some of the pictures. Like some of the pictures, like he had a tan. Some of the pictures, he was looking brighter. I said, let me send him a voice message. Do you have 4 black grandparents? Before this goes any further.
All right,
Do you have 4 black grandparents?
I find okay. So I'm okay with this discourse to a point. I think you already acknowledged the community aspect that plays a role into people's relationship choices and things like that. I also think we get into some blood quantum stuff when we start.
I'm just strict. I thought about that when she was talking about like seeing black folks with other black folks or seeing people from the same like, culture together.
Definitely.
I do think that that's important, and I do think that that does reset. Like I know this past weekend or something, apparently there was like a whole bunch of discourse about Ryan Coogler's wife Zenzi, because people were talking about how she wasn't black, and I was like, "What are y'all talking about?" I never knew she was mixed. The girl looked like a black lady, so I don't know. Hell, but everybody was on the internet talking about the girl was mixed. I said, okay. And why does it matter? I just don't think it's a big deal. First off, Filipino people, what? But alrighty, whatever.
All right, so see, we doing this is how I get with folks. Then we start doing the weird race astrology.
So that's why I was like,
Filipinos are black.
Really,
okay.
I just don't think it's really important. Like, let's just go, like, give it up. And I also feel like that's the only thing they got on him because he's so positive about like black culture, making sure black folks are treated right, and showing on screen, like the girl was saying, Asian couples together. Because you know it is rare to see. She was right though. It's very rare to see 2 hot Asians. The husband usually ugly.
That or it pissed me off in Crazy Rich Asians when again, and check out Jared and Sudeep's work. They actually covered this movie and how problematic it was. But okay, so we finally get our film. Imagine, and I'm saying this is very easy because in the black community it happens unfortunately all the time. We have our film. It's supposed to be about black love. We're getting all the Hollywood funding and all of that, and it's a beautiful black man walks out onto the screen, and then his couple, as Amber would say, his partner does not have 4 black grandparents. Right, she's biracial with a white parent, right? And this is our image of black love. That is exactly what has happened. That is the trauma, the colonial experience we've been dealing with. And so, yes, I actually do see the parallel in Asian communities, particularly when Crazy Rich Asians comes out and the Asian love interest is half white, and not just half white. They are like British royalty damn near in that movie if you watch it and how they move. So I just think that's problematic. If I'm a young Asian boy, I go to the movies, I go to watch Crazy Rich Asians, and the person I'm supposed to be is, somebody who's a half white Asian man.
Which is crazy.
That's a problem. And I think
want to say, A-Rob, this is so funny. She said, "Pop the balloon, the 1 drop rule edition." That's funny.
Yeah. And so to your point, Amber, as you said, on personal relationships, it's your politics, it's how you move, it's things like that. I think when we're talking about interracial relationships in the media in particular, with shows like Blackish, for example, where only one of the kids has 4 black grandparents, and we want to do it like that. I'm talking about the actual actors cast. I think the younger siblings have black parents and the older.
Yeah, Marseille does. I mean, the light skin, the older son, I don't think he does. But the twins, Yara, right? Marseille and Miles, they do.
Yeah.
Someone
Yara's
also asked me,
like black and Iranian, I believe. Go ahead.
Amber, would you date someone of Creole ancestry? Yeah, the nigga that I said was light skinned, that I wasn't sure if he had 4 black grandparents, had some Creole ancestry. I just want to say, I said 4 black grandparents, not great grandparents or great great grandparents. I'm just talking about.
Amber says my line is 2 generations back.
Is your granny black or not? That's all I need to know.
Yeah,
I actually think that that's fair. That's all I'm saying. I think that's
everyone's. Fair. I mean, the dating standards are you got to navigate them on your own and according to your own politics. But I think there's a lot of conversations to have. We've had plenty on this channel. A lot of Jared's work on biracial identity stuff to check out. But I
also want to add, none of this is rooted in like aesthetics. Like, one, I'm not having no fucking kids, but if I did and the baby was light skinned, I won't care. That's not the thing. Because I have been seeing people on threads, especially talk about this, like, making sure they have children with dark skinned people because they don't want light skinned babies. And I was like, you can't control that. Like, there's not something you can control. My sister looks like she's white. She's very bright. My twin sister. So
Mhm.
there's not really something you can control. We got 4 Black grandparents.
Right.
I just think that personally, I would want to be with someone that has strong Black lineage, not strong Black genes. Like you got to be this certain hue. No, just
Right.
like you have a strong Black lineage in your family. Like that's what matters to me.
I
That's
think
all.
that makes a lot of sense when we talk about Asada talks about going to see your grandparents in the South and like how that was a formative experience. So when you're saying lineage, I think
Mhm.
community, I think grandparents who even throughout
I
the
definitely think
diaspora.
community, like community culture. I think of those things.
Right.
Brittany said, right, it's not like Amber saying other Black people should have this standard. Exactly. I don't actually tell people that they should feel this way at all. I just feel this way. Amber does not believe in certain things. I don't judge
Well,
my friends.
I think some other interesting things people are pointing out. Well, unfortunately, I never met my paternal grandparents, but there are folks who do not know their grandparents in our community. There is a lot of broken lineage, so we have
And
to.
I be letting niggas like that slide. I have dated a few people who they don't know what their granddaddy look like. That's
Right.
cool. I said, can you ask your grandmama if your granddaddy was Black?
Mhm.
And they did, and they found out their granddad was Black. It's just that easy. Also, this is to me, this is honestly a lesson in the way that we don't use oral history the way that we should. So many folks do not ask their grandparents about basic history in their family. Like so many people don't know things about their lineage, maybe because that person is dead, but if not, they don't know because they're not even asking. If you know one grandparent, you could ask them questions and maybe find out some stuff about some other grandparents. But a lot of times we don't do that. And I've dated at least 3 or 4 people who I've asked that question to, and that's how they found out stuff about their grandparents because I asked them that. So they asked their mama. And I said, that's ridiculous. Like, why don't you
Mhm.
want to know your lineage? And maybe it's just me because I have these, like, this like longing for like ancestral roots that I want to know these things. But like, I would want to, like, I would ask those questions. And so many men specifically just don't ask. Like, they just don't think about it.
Yeah, no, I think you're just speaking to the colonial experience, right? I think I appreciate the way you talk about lineage because it is more village-based, communal, historic, and it doesn't sound like it's ADOS. I know that was a joke in the comment, and yes, the diabetic comment, I know it's coming. But specifically, it's open to the diaspora, which I appreciate. It's just about having connection to your African lineage, whether you came from Colombia or Jamaica or the US. So I just appreciated that.
Yeah, because you ain't got to be from the US. Somebody said my whole list is only ADOS people. It's not true. I've dated a couple Africans. Talk to an African nigga right now.
Again, it's also related to your environment, right? As you said, people tend to partner with folks that they're around, right? So we have this kind of
Yeah.
discussion. I've said this many times for FD actually has a really good video on quote unquote swirling. But a lot of these kids get taken out of their communities, dropped into the whitest of areas, and then are supposed to find a Black partner. And there's even Netflix shows about that. That new show with the dad from The Wire, what's it called? And they're 2 young people. They get into a relationship throughout the years. Oh my goodness! I just saw it on Netflix. And the girl's Keisha is her name. And oh my goodness. Anyway,
You talking about Forever?
Forever. Thank you. Thank you. You know how there's like a class discussion in Forever because he lives in the burbs basically. And so he goes to his rich bougie house and he talks to his mom. And it's a scene a lot of people love where he's supposed to get in trouble for staying out late. But then he tells his dad he's dating somebody. And then the dad's like, who is it? Expecting a white girl because of where they moved him and put him into school. And when he says Keisha, he's excited. He's like, go tell your mom. She's going to be happy that you're dating a Black girl or whatever. But I'm like, y'all are the parents who put him in this environment away from these people. So yes, it's glad that he has affinity to his culture, but as you see through the show, there's a lot of barriers in the way for even him and Keisha to be together across class and
Yeah,
community.
he was really struggling.
Yeah.
I also think that they did, since we're talking about Forever, because I just got a notification that they finna start filming May 2026. So we get a new season.
They're coming
and
back.
I'm really excited about it. But I also think they do a really good job of showing the realities of ADHD in Black people, especially how Black boys struggle. Because Black boys and Black girls struggle pretty similarly. It can be a little more intense for Black girls, but I feel like the way that they showed him and like his, and they didn't outwardly say what it was at first, which I think helped people to like be more accepting and understanding of what he's going through. I thought it was beautifully done, because I think that so many times we're really judging people about having ADHD and like only offering options around medicine. But I think they really showed how his mom like really tried to like get him together, get him a tutor. The executive functioning coach is actually a real thing. I know a lot of people who do that instead of taking medicine, because some people just don't have the best reactions. And I think they also did a really good job of showing how crucial executive functioning is. I do think that people don't take it as serious as they should. And I think they did a really good job of showing that in a young Black boy, because in young Black girls, it honestly just looks like extreme like academic achievement. So you never really like catch it really well. So I really like that they showed it in a way that was understandable and like acceptable to people. And then over time they were like, oh, it's just ADHD. But you were able to see how intense it is and like why it was such a big thing. And I think that one of the things that I really liked is them showing his like panic attacks, or like the deep emotions he was feeling around the relationship, because that's rejection sensitivity syndrome, which I also have. And so I know what that's like. And I think that we don't talk about that either. And that's why he was having such intense feelings around the girl and the other, like it was like a love triangle vibe there because of the ADHD. And I think that I mean, the cinematics of how they displayed it, A1. It was top notch. I really appreciated it, because I don't think we talk about that at all either, and doesn't relate it to folks so they can understand like, oh, this is a real thing that someone is like really struggling with, and like this really impacts them. And I think seeing it on the screen and seeing him go through it in real time was really good for people to like be like, oh, okay, this is what people are talking about. Because it's very hard to explain. I can't really explain it that well. I just be like, shit, I'm going through it. I don't know, man. Like, so I really appreciate that. And I like the cinematographer. I forgot her name, but she's really good.
Gotcha. Now a lot of people are saying you put them on, so glad we talked about it. I also want to shout out the creator, because the story is resonating for a reason. I think Terry McMillan did Wait and Exhale. My fiance just watched that movie. Pretty sure that's why it's sticking out in my head. So Forever is brought to you by
I had
Terry
just watched Wait
McMillan.
and Exhale a few years ago, and I was mad because the movie's short.
The movie's short and interesting, intense. I haven't watched it all the way through, so you.
It was real interesting. I said they moving through seasons real quick. Now hold on. How did it happen so quickly?
Oh yeah, I gotta I've only seen the highlights, because I've seen the viral clips, but I gotta rewatch. But yeah, Terry McMillan produced this show. I appreciated it. I didn't make it all the way through, and that's okay. It was just more about my personal things. I like the elements it does. When we critique a lot of these shows, and there are so many critiques to make, the ones I tend to give the most grace in this era are the ones that more authentically depict a certain experience, right? And often comes from the writers knowing those people or having something themselves. And it just kind of flows through a simple story. It doesn't try and tell too much. It doesn't try and do a political kind of backstory or anything like that. It just kind of sticks in its own universe. I think Insecure was strongest when it did that as a TV show, because I was like, okay, this is what, like, you know, PMC blacks, professional managerial class blacks in their 20s are dealing with. Right. And it's gentrification, it's trying to find a career, it's dealing with the nonprofit world, all those things. I thought it was great when they did that. I thought she was terrible when she talked about side characters in the hood, because they were almost always comic relief. So class analysis, bad, but honest depiction of a segment of Black life, good. And so I think Forever falls into some of that as well, you know, just a little bit. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm team, what's his name? Kendrick Sampson. I'm not team Lawrence. Speaking of the class conflict and Insecure,
Alrighty.
We're gonna talk about that.
I wasn't saying Lawrence. I was actually saying, what's the nigga who made her put that thing over her, who she got shot in the eye?
You like Daniel? Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, toxic! Good Lord! Those of you who don't watch Insecure, we're gonna keep it accessible. There are three love interests. There's Lawrence. There's Daniel.
He loved
and there's
her.
Nate. I think if you watch the show, Daniel is probably the worst partner for the main character. But
I just think that it was bad timing. I also think that Nathan could have been a good partner if he was on some depression medicine. I don't know. I feel like there was a lot moving around there, and because he disappeared like that, I didn't like how he did her. At least when her and Daniel wasn't talking, it was mutual.
We spoiling for folks, but yes,
I
watch
feel
Insecure.
like if you ghost me, we ain't cool. No matter.
That was. We could do our Insecure breakdown. Absolutely. Someone says I vote for none of them. That's fine as well. Vernon philosophy of Black media avoidance. We talk about that here. So if you don't want to watch any of these, that's fine. But I did want to shout out an elder, a Black woman who also produced some great stuff. But this time we're talking about at the community level. So one story before we have our guest who's going to join us to talk about the WNBA and the labor contract they just signed. I wanted to talk about ancestor Jean Blackwell Hudson, the curator of the Schomburg Center. Schomburg, another ancestor, Arturo Schomburg from St. Croix, Puerto Rican ancestor. And I wanted to talk about her legacy. So
Blackwell Hudson was curator of the Schomburg collection from 1948 to 1972. In 1972, she became the chief of the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture.
She began her career at the New York Public Library. She worked at the 135th Street branch, which would eventually become the Schomburg Center.
Throughout her tenure, she was a fierce advocate for more resources and more funding for the collection at the state level and at the city level.
She grew the Schomburg collection. She grew its staff, and she helped professionalize the people who were working at the Schomburg.
She's the unsung hero. She's the one that did the institutional work, often behind the scenes, to make sure that the collection was safe and would survive.
Jean Blackwell Hudson was...
So, shout out ancestor, but I thought that was really cool. Again, we often talk about Black women doing the logistical labor behind the scenes to make this happen. The Schomburg Center is in Harlem. It's a historic center. Arturo Schomburg was a Black Puerto Rican ancestor who was important in Black studies early wave, like John Henrik Clarke. And so studying Black history, telling us that he got a teacher who told him that Black people have no history when he was a child. And so he set out to obviously prove that wrong, and his life's work was that. So he's a historian. He has a lot of, archive for us. And so Jean Hudson was also somebody who carried on that work and made the Schomburg Center actually a thing. I have went to the Schomburg Center. It still is around. Obviously struggling for funding like a lot of public resources, but I will pull it up so people can visit. If you haven't been, it's nice. I tutored there for a little bit. And I think they showed the center on the extra thing, but there you go. If you're in Harlem, check it out. The Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. And there is ancestor Arturo Alfonso Schomburg. And as we know, worked alongside John Henrik Clarke and a lot of our others from that wave of Black studies. So just wanted to shout her out. It has a solid archive. Yes, Sudeep, I really want to check it out someday. It definitely does, and it's still being added to. So as some of our elders in movement start looking through their archives and things like that, they look for places to donate, and the Schomburg Center is often at the top of that list. So celebrating 100 years. Recently, just want to shout that out. And if you're in New York, come through. So saw that.
Yeah, I'm excited for this guest, first of all, because I have been tracking the WNBA negotiations.
Oh yeah. What we thinking?
You know, as a fan of the WNBA, who is a longtime man hater of the MNBA, I was just so worried that the girls was not going to have a season. I also just have a distinct memory of the inequities of women in sports as a person who went to a university that had a like 5-time champion winning women's basketball team. They had these horrible ass training centers and this lame ass bus. Meanwhile, the men's team, who sucked, had all the good shit. So I am always gonna be rooting for the girls, and I love that for them. Also, Athletes Unlimited just ended, which is in Nashville, which is like not that far from me. So I went to a few games of that. That was fun. Really liked it. Got to see Sydney Colson, Nafisa Collier, like all the girls.
Oh, y'all are gonna get along great. Okay.
So
What's
I'm
your
really
team
excited
again?
about it.
What's your team? We can ask Maddie his team because he's obsessed.
I ain't got no team. I
You ain't
like
got a
them all.
team? Okay,
I like
let's see
the
if he can sell
players
you.
individually, so I don't have no loyalty. I really like Aaliyah Boston. Fuck with her hard. I like Paige, of course. Angel. I feel like Aaliyah Boston doesn't get like a lot of like social support because she on that team with that white bitch we don't like. But and the little Trump supporter girl. But Aaliyah is an amazing player. And I also like some of the older players too, because one of my friends, Tommy out here, Tommy watches the show. Tommy is the one who took me to my first WNBA game, and he knows a lot of players, so he put me on to some like veteran players who are really good too.
Dope. Yeah. You're like me. I'm a bad basketball fan now. But I don't like teams anymore. I'm past teams. I'm all about the players. I support players.
I mean, I like some of the teams, but I would just have multiple shirts and stuff because I don't have like a particular one.
Yeah.
Yes, Devin. What Devin said, the MNBA is so boring right now. They suck right now. Like no one's interested. I don't care. Except for the Detroit game when they was whooping niggas' asses. I said, that's right. Throw them blows. We about to throw them blows. That was them at the game.
We losing teams too. We losing recipes. Houston comments. Oh, we had the Miami Soul in Miami. That was our WNBA team that went away. So
they're supposed
missed
to be
them.
expanding every year for the next few years or something, like add another team. So we're gonna see what happens.
Miami doesn't deserve sports teams, so I don't know. Look, stay away. It goes somewhere else. We got the FTX arena down
I'm
here.
hoping that Nashville gets a WNBA team because I don't think Memphis will, but I'm hoping that Nashville will at least get one. So then I can go watch games that way.
Nice.
I also just think it's so crazy how, well, one, I like how they talk about being in the association for the players or whatever, but I just think it's so crazy that this is the first time they hit revenue sharing. But it also shows the impact of the college players because Angel, Aaliyah Boston, Paige, like all the last two like draft classes really increase how much people pay attention to games because they be on social media. Because I be watching TikToks and Instagram, and that's where Angel and them be. And that's how I got hip. I was like, oh wait, shit, she balling. Like she cool as hell. Or like
definitely.
My favorite subsect of players is the African players because I just know they mamas and them did not think they was gonna be popular and wanted them to be doctors. And several of them talked about how like they had to get real degrees because their parents was not fucking playing. And it's like it's a good subsect. It's like about 10 of them, like that are like Nigerian, like African
yes,
to play. And there was a girl who got drafted from Tennessee. She played for the Vols, but then she had an injury, who I've been following for a while, who was African. And now she plays for the team Asia Wilson's on in Vegas. What's it called? The Aces. She plays for the Aces. She's been playing for the Aces for a while. And she's recovered from that injury years ago and been killing it ever since. So I love when that happens because sometimes some injuries do you in.
Yeah. You listen. You
agreed. Unrivaled was fire as fuck, and my goal next year is to go to a game in person because them Unrivaled games was so lit. I had friends who went to ones up north, and I was like, I ain't this young little fun. I know it was fun.
Yeah, you got some more Unrivaled fans in the chat.
I'm trying to undo it. Hold on. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to, before we
Unrivaled
move on.
is like that. And honestly, this is before the dude comes, I want to say this is my theory. My theory is that the reason why they was holding out so long, the WNBA was being so picky, is because they jealous of Unrivaled. I think that they're extremely jealous of Unrivaled, and they don't really like that, they getting the attention. But also Unrivaled has all the things. Like they got the good contract folks can sign in, they can be part owners. They have the good social media game. The social media game matters because that's how people are seeing the players and stuff. So like all those things line up, and they just don't be realizing that. Like, I don't like it. Stone Chowder said, "Is that why Brittany G got held up in Russia? Got to play outside the states to make money?" Exactly. Just like that girl I told y'all about that was playing in Iran. They have to go overseas to make money.
Yeah.
During the off season. Like that's a normal thing that they all do. And if they get cut from their WNBA team, a lot of times they'll go play in Europe because they still pay more. Like they always pay more, which is why people do it as a second thing. And I feel like it's just so hard on your body too, because they're never really taking long breaks for real, because they'll play, maybe have a week off, and then go play overseas. And I think that also increases your risk of injury because you're playing so much.
I even think the traveling, all that. I think about that a lot with the NBA. They are traveling all the time. I wonder how that affects their sleep, all that. I mean, they're professional athletes. I'm sure they have some of the best healthcare compared to us in certain ways, unless you retire in the NFL and then you don't. But I do wonder about just how that affects them. I know a lot of the players talk about it feeling weird almost. I think Dennis, I'm forgetting his last name, but he was talking about getting traded and how you just can end up completely somewhere different with your family uprooted from one night to another. And I know everyone wants to say, "Oh, pro athletes, $40 million. What are you complaining about?" But I do think that is like actually.
But all of them don't make $40 million, which is I think
that's
what
another
we should talk
great
about
point.
more. Because there was this Patriots player who got traded. I only know because his wife is like Instagram, TikTok popular. Like she's like real famous. Like she got like 500,000 plus followers. And she posted about, she was like, "Get ready with me to go pick up my husband's stuff because he got traded." And she said, "I'm finna go off on everybody. I'm cussing everybody out." Like the video was so fucking funny. She wasn't finna do none of that. She was like, "I'm just kidding, guys. I love them." But she was just talking about the process of being traded. They have children. She's pregnant right now. He isn't a $40 million player. He was making a nominal salary, but now he's been traded. He got to wait. He was released and hoping to be picked up by another team. So he doesn't even have a job yet. And she was just talking about the process of that. And I think that's what's important. Remembering that not all of them are rich. Like a lot of them make good money, but they're not rich. They got a lot of fucking kids. Like that stuff matters. They're not like my cousin is Mookie Betts. He make money. Like he good. But like the nigga who play for the Patriots who no one knows.
It's a short career too. Well, you're already getting into it, so I'm gonna just bring our guest up to the stage. Welcome, brother Maddie. How you doing? Maddie's an organizer with Black Men Build, our New York chapter, and also an expert, I would say, in labor and all things sports. So here to talk to us about the WNBA. I think y'all are gonna have a lot more to build on than me. We got Maddie. How you doing? Oh no, can't hear the mic. Hold on.
Your sound not working.
Sound's not working. It says you're unmuted though. We've been having tech difficulties all morning, bro. So
okay, what about now?
Perfect.
We're back. I was asking if you're leaving the conversation, brother. Don't get us.
Oh no, I'm here. I just know my expertise. We did all the pop culture, the fun stuff before you got here. So don't worry. Now the pop culture's out the way. Y'all can do all this sports.
All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what's going on, y'all? How you doing?
Doing well. Amber was talking about all her favorite teams, some of the conditions of these players. I know you wanted to talk to us about the WNBA and these labor contracts. Is there anything you wanted me to put on the screen? Get the people some context.
Wow. Yeah, I've been in the lab, a little bit of background. I just care about political education deeply and see sports as a great opportunity to do political education in a way that that really reaches people in a way that's accessible and interesting and fun often.
It's such a good idea.
Yeah. So it's like the perfect gateway for a lot of people to understand politics in a way that's more palatable, you know. But this contract is not a fun thing. WNBA contract, not fun. So I've been in the lab since a couple of days ago, just trying to understand what's going on with that in ways that I haven't really done before, you know. But I have once I see a lot of people talking something up publicly, in a very positive way, like in the mainstream opinion and mainstream conversation, I get a little suspicious. And I was a lot suspicious in this instance just because of what the general landscape of sports looks like with respect to these contracts. Collective bargaining agreement just meaning like the contract between the players and the owners, mediated by the people who run the league, the commissioner. Those contracts are a big deal because they are labor contracts and people don't really understand them that way. And in particular, we're talking about a women's sports league. I'm sure Amber was just talking about it, right? This is a Black women's sports league. That's what the WNBA is. So
yeah,
it's important, it's like to
and
have
the white players want to be Black. So
you see, look, all of them, especially in the WNBA. So
because I can't remember this girl name. She be doing the little skits and stuff with Sia Colson, like that little podcast. A little white girl. Her name is like TC or something, but she has a longer name. That's weird. She want to be Black so bad, and I said, it's okay.
Yeah.
Also, I always think it's crazy how deep their voices is.
Oh,
That girl
Lord.
voice deep as a motherfucker. I said, what's up? I know she doing that. Her voice was not always that deep because I've seen her play in college. Or I think about Kelsey Plum. Now, Kelsey Plum, I will say, she ain't like doing it in a way of like blackface, but she do be,
she's doing a thing, man.
She want to be Black. I get it. They all want to be like.
Yes.
But I said, Kelsey, you didn't get that swag until you was in the WNBA. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. They swag Jack. She was married to a Black man until they got divorced. That was her. Yeah, that was like
Paige Buck years don't count because she got a Black stepmama. She's still Black.
Oh, she do? That's crazy. They all one agreement move.
I'm doing that. Step Black is the craziest thing.
Since she was like a young kid. So like,
yeah. Okay.
But realistically, I don't feel like it changed her culture. I just think it made her more Christian. Like her hyper religiosity comes from that Black stepmama and the way she don't play by Black people. But it didn't like change her swag. I don't think. I think that most of it's still pretty white. Like the girl be having pink curly hair. Like she not,
Correct.
Play your lane. Everybody's got,
And I think she does that well. I think Paige is a great example of staying in your fucking lane. Just staying where you should be.
Look, I know brothers who would disagree. I would tend to agree. She's really good at basketball. That's great. And I think underlying all this is that she's a worker, in this league. She's a worker, as are her peers. And so what I took issue with, I just feel like anybody should be suspicious if people if mainstream news outlets are saying a contract is a good thing for the players and that the players won.
It's a landmark deal, man.
Oh Lord, the word they're using is transformative. That's what they're saying. And just let's just be honest about some of the terms, right? Just in terms of plain numbers, there are big differences between the CBA that they were just in, that was supposed to run through the end of this year. They opted out of the last year of it in 2024, so they did 2025 as the last year of the contract. And in that contract, for instance, the minimum salary for the first through third year player or something like that was like $66,000, and now it will be almost $300,000. The salary cap is going to go from, meaning that the total amount that teams can spend on players will go from like $1.5 million to $7 million, with it being like max of 10 at the end of the current,
which
contract.
makes them more competitive.
Sure. So that is an increase.
It also makes me wonder, like, are they gonna then like have restrictions around like the sponsorship stuff they get or other stuff? I also think one thing I don't like about the talks around the CBA stuff, like from the article that Lord put up, they're using that language, but that's not what the players are using. And a lot of the language they've been using and like a lot of the stuff that they've been saying hasn't been like making it to mainstream media, of course. And I get most of my like news about this kind of stuff from TikTok or Threads. And on TikTok, like they've been making videos and talking about like, hey, this is why this is important. This is what's happening. That's how they've been keeping people up to date, because the news really isn't using the language they're using. Because I agree with you, like they are workers. And I think Angel Reese actually does a great job of reminding us that she is a worker and that the passion she has around the sport is because the team was not doing well. And as workers and as folks who are working a job, we want to do well. And so we should then consider what players are telling us, because they tried to villainize her about saying like, hey, we should get this kind of player, or we should look at this kind of training because people are struggling. And the coach is like, no, and making it like she's a problem, when realistically she's trying to do her job better. And she really can't, because y'all aren't giving her what she needs. And if she complains about that, she's seen as a disgruntled employee versus someone who wants to be successful, which is not fair to her.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the context of the negotiations around the contract, what was happening a bit was some like light disciplining of the players who were speaking out about the way the contract negotiations were going, which is common in a union context, right? If you have, I'm not going to corrupt leadership or not, if you have leadership that's a bit in bed with management, they are going to look down on players sort of breaking the line of the unity of the union to the extent that even exists. So basically they're critiquing the existence of critique, which is a terrible place to be, for those of us who care about revolutionary politics. So it's like, it's important to be able to see this as a labor thing, as a Black women's labor issue. And so just in the timeline of them going from opting out of the last contract to this one, the players were saying, people on the executive committee of the players union, so ones who were more directly involved in the negotiations, were saying we didn't get any information about negotiations from October 24th to basically October of 2024 to January of 2026. So we went this whole time not really being tapped into negotiations at all. And then it was like a mad blitz or a sprint to get from the beginning of this year to a few days ago in March, right? And that it sucks, right? From the players' perspective, they said that they were requesting information from their union about the state of negotiations and weren't getting information repeatedly, right? So union staff are not supporting them and getting full information, which means that democracy is not possible. People aren't fully informed. And then on top of that, the league, of course, loves the idea of forcing the players into this tight window of negotiations for long periods of time, because you get to wear people down, right? That's like a classic negotiating tactic, which is to put people in a room for hours at a time and bore them and wear them down. And I can speak from personal experience doing legal services union work, right? Being a legal services worker and being part of two collective bargaining agreement struggles. And it's classic. Putting people in a room and just bargaining over and over and over again and wearing these people down. And if the people in the room don't have strong politics and real principles to lie on, anything could happen, So these players went from asking for their original demand of 40% of gross revenue, meaning like all the money that the league makes before you start taking out expenses and whatnot. Their original demand, I'm pretty sure, was for 40% of that. And the final contract is 20%, which happens in negotiations. But when you start comparing that to other leagues, it's like half of those, right? So the NBA is getting above 50% of gross revenue, NFL around 50, and MLB is like 45 or 46. So basketball, football, and baseball, the three biggest men's sports in the United States, those players are getting close to half, if not more than half, of gross revenues for their leagues. And those leagues are making a lot more money too. So it's a lot more money available. Rosters are bigger for some of those sports. You got to calculate that too. But just on balance, the numbers are bigger. And just to do a little bit of myth busting too, because I was looking this up, a lot of people will say, the league's not profitable yet, so you can't play them this much. It's not fair. The owners have to be able to protect their investment, this, that, the other. The first, as far as I can tell, the first contract that the men's basketball players got in NBA in 1983, they were at 53% of gross revenue immediately, whether or not that was profitable, right? So that's just sexism at that point, right? It has nothing to do with profit. It's just like, these are women, so therefore it's okay to pay them less. That to me, that's pretty standard, right? So I'm gonna share. I'll put a couple documents.
Sure. And as you do that, we have questions, and y'all, as you can hear, any questions you have, please drop them in the chat, comments, things like that. We'll try and address them with Maddie's time. But the first was from Aaliyah. Is that number, I think, the 7 million per player or the team as a whole?
Yeah. So the 7 million is for it's the maximum amount of money in the first year of this contract, the new collective bargaining agreement, It is the total amount that a single team can pay all of its players. So all the player salaries need to fit under that $7 million salary cap. And WNBA is a hard cap, meaning that you can't go above it except for emergencies. Other sports have like basketball has rules. You can go above it, but you pay a fine for every dollar you go above it. And then you start losing draft picks when you go above that. Baseball is the same way with a luxury tax. NFL is a bit more of the...
And they'll just pay that because they're like, it's worth it.
Yeah, they'll pay it. Well, they're billionaires. So of course they'll pay it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they understand when it comes to investing in it. We'll get to the investment part of things. That's the most amazing and astounding part of all this. Just by the way, it's like, I don't know how it's a secret, but it's the best investment you could ever make to be an owner of a sports team or to be part of an ownership group of a sports team.
Printing money.
It's incredible and basically that the ownership, they will talk out of both sides of their mouth, right? They will at the same time talk about, we're not making money. Year over year, we're operating at a loss, right? This is, by the way, pretty standard in some sports leagues. So in baseball, for instance, almost half of the teams a year ago were operating at a loss on a year-to-year basis, meaning that they did not make money in the millions of dollars. They lost some money because of their expenses and because of how much they were paying players. But if you look at team valuations, that is where the money is being made. It's not liquid, but it is there. So the value of the team, I will just read you some quotes and I'll give you some links, Lorik, so you can put them in you could give them to people.
Yep.
For instance, Forbes has been keeping track of NBA team valuations since 1998. According to their data, the total value of NBA teams has appreciated by 2,568% over the past 28 years. Can you, it's incredible. Like, it just doesn't make sense, right? Or it makes sense in that it's entertainment and people are addicted to it like me,
of course.
Right? But it's crazy. For NFL, if you had invested $1,000 into an NFL franchise in 1998, you would have about $16,000 today. So that's like, and that was written in 2024. If you invested the same money in the stock market, you would have only made $5,500.
Oh, that's that, Jesus. That's that slave plantation owner margins that we're dealing with.
Literally accumulation by
2,000%. Just by one human, it's a 2,000% return. Your investment.
It's incredible. And if I were to do baseball, same idea. If you had invested $1,000 into an MLB franchise in 1998, you'd have about $13,000 today. And this article that I got that from was basically complaining about how baseball is behind the other sports. It's not 16,000. It's just 13,000 that you would have gotten from your $1,000, 1998 to 2024. So these are astronomical increases in valuation. And of course, I made sure to look at WNBA as well. And just last year, an article came out. So 2025 summer, WNBA franchises increased in value by an average of 180% since last year, setting a record. Right? So it's just like it's apples and oranges when we're talking about player salaries versus these billionaires' valuations. And they can just buy these teams for very little money now.
So they're not losing nothing for real.
Say it again.
They're not losing nothing for real, which is why I was so annoyed about how they made it seem like, this is such a big deal to pay all this money. Oh my gosh. Like, be for real.
Right. So
y'all got it. Jeez.
Basically, I think the idea that I wanted to surface is that you could celebrate this deal as you could just look at it in plain material terms for this deal versus the last deal. And there are increases in numbers for these contracts, which is real. So minimum salaries have gone up, right? There's home care or home rent being covered for the lowest paid players. The full details aren't out, but I'm sure there's medical improvements and there's charter flight improvements and there's other benefits, pension benefits, whatever, these are things that should be happening, of course. So I would never be anti that. But in terms of how you bargain and how you understand your value as a worker, what's going on?
I'll bring up Shirley's comment because she said WNBA is not profitable. At least that is what has been reported. Yeah, that's what I was. So when I was talking about like them on TikTok talking about what's happening, that's like the videos I was seeing from the players, not the association people like you were mentioning, Matt.
Yeah.
Which I thought was weird. Like, I don't know if they just didn't want to. They don't want to like make videos because they don't want to say anything. But Nafisa Collier said something. Shit, I just feel like they should have said something. But yeah, when the players are talking about how it's become a bigger thing now because they become profitable and they feel like that's one of the reasons they're pushing back and other stuff. And I was like, yeah, because they didn't want them to even find out they had become profitable. And I was like, this is so fucked up because this is how y'all treat workers. You don't even want them to know that y'all become profitable. And what I was shocked about was that they just became profitable because I was like, I've always kind of liked women's sports since college, but I've been heavily following since Angel Reese in that championship. So that's been like 2-3 years now. And I would have been thought when Angel Reese, after that championship, when her and that white girl into the draft, that they would have been profitable after that. Like, I mean, I really feel like because before that was really just like a top 10 good players like Asia Wilson, other folks, and a lot of them were on the same teams. Like Asia Wilson and Sydney Colson were on the same team for a long time. I also feel like just off Sydney Colson personality alone, she should have been making more money. Like, because she was really carrying the fucking league for a minute on TikTok and stuff, like, or the stud buds, like those people who have stuff outside of, for folks who don't know who they are, there's these two black players who are studs, and they have a podcast or like show called The Stud Buds. Yeah. And they were like super popular. Like they were trending for a whole time. They had their own like 24-hour stream happening during the WNBA All-Star weekend that was like a huge hit. But like they had access to players that most people would not have. And because of that, people got to see a different like side of players, and it really brought people in to like want to pay attention to All-Star Weekend and the WNBA. And so for me, I would have just thought people like that anyways would be making more money. So the fact that they had to do all of this just for them to make more money, and Sydney Colson been playing for a long time, I thought that shit was insane.
Yeah.
And she had all these side gigs because you got to pay for all the stuff you doing. Like,
yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a classic case of unacknowledged labor of women and Black women, point blank, period. The league benefits from that. It's invisibilized, even though it's very present. People don't see it as work, even though it looks like it's fun. So, and this was Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann is who you're talking about, the stud buds, right? So yeah, and that was a big 24 hours of a stream.
They called them the stud buds too much. I forgot. I knew one of them named Courtney. I forgot the other one.
Yeah. So, but I 100% agree. And just by the way, the comment that y'all uplifted, 100%. Like, so let's grant that the league is profitable now. Even more reason to pay the players what they actually owe, what they're actually owed. But even if the league is not profitable on a year-to-year basis, what I'm basically saying is these are billionaires who own the teams. They are making money off of their investment in buying these teams. It's astronomical how much they're making. So to then set a salary cap at $7 million is insane, basically, is what I'm saying. Even though it's a big increase over what it used to be, it just doesn't make sense mathematically or by the principle. Yeah. So those are the terms that I would like to have the conversation on, because otherwise it just gets abstracted and we're just talking about the last contract versus the current contract without understanding the context of who owns the teams, how much are they making off the labor of the players, and what should this actually be looking like if we're talking about equity. So, and then there's just critiques, of course, to be made of the players' union. It's not about critiquing the players per se, but it's more about who's in the union leadership. What are their politics? How are they fighting for what they should be fighting for when it comes to the actual negotiations? What's grounding their demands for certain things? So why was their first demand for 40% of gross revenue when the NBA's first contract was over 50? Like, why would you start bargaining under 50? I actually don't understand it. So it's a curiosity, but it's also just the principle of it. It doesn't make sense. And the profitability arguments that would try to shout down people for asking for what they're actually owed don't hold up, because year over year, a lot of teams in the men's sports are not profitable, quote unquote, even though the team valuation will go up every year, no matter what. So it's a contradiction that you have to actually expose and then say, how is this going to inform how you fight for your what you're actually owed, And the last thing I'll say, just, as an additional piece, and this is why doing PE through sports is cool, is because other businesses finance their shit all the time, dude. They're not operating with real money. They have made up money from banks that help them stay afloat or do things. And these teams do the same shit. They just
Can
happen
I
to be more
pause you?
profitable.
Because I think this came up as you started saying that. So what do
There
owners
you go.
expect?
Yeah.
The increased valuation does not represent increased class.
Sure.
So how do you
course.
respond to that?
No, 100. That's exactly what they will say. I think 100%. They'll say that the valuation going up means that it's not liquid. It's just the value of the team. But the benefits that a billionaire gets from having a high value asset are incredible, right? The stuff you have access to. In fact, debt is better for them than it is for us because it means that you actually get to access more debt, which means you can do basically whatever you want. It's play money. It's not real. So that it ultimately, in terms of paying out players, what gets generated year over year by the league is not always reflective of what the owners can afford to pay, is how I would put that. Yeah.
And under capitalist contradiction, as you're pointing out, it's not about like use value or things doing what they're supposed to do. So a team is supposed to win. A team is supposed to produce good players. A team is supposed to do all these things. And when we're seeing in the article you shared, the Knicks are the highest valued NBA team, or were the highest valued NBA team for quite some time. I think the Cowboys are one of the most valued franchises in the world.
Sure.
And I don't think they've won Super Bowl recently. Y'all sports folks can tell me, but I'm pretty sure they don't win like that. So yeah, just interested. I had another point. Of course, this discussion is the political economy of sports. Yes, that's infamous chatter. Leah Boggs, absolutely correct. That's what we're doing here today. So
yes.
Yeah.
This isn't new, by the way. People have certainly explored this in very different ways. I would say the women's sports are just chronically understudied because of course they are, but even they on YouTube and online, if you're looking for things, have leftists who are analyzing how this is happening for different sports leagues. So I just happen to have an affinity for sports and I love liberation. So I have to put these things together if I'm trying to understand the world. But yeah, this is about political economy of sport as applied to sport, however you want to say it.
I really like Ashley Knuckles' comment. Matt, she said this is a perfect lesson on the tool of a class analysis.
Sure.
And I agree.
Sure. Yeah. Like, the second you start seeing them as workers, and just, I think an important point is that WNBA qualitatively and quantitatively is just a different beast than these more established leagues. It's been around for 30 years now. Other leagues have been around baseball's been around for over 100 years. And basketball's been around for nearly more than 100 years now, or around that amount of time, or I should say around 80 years. And the WNBA players, by virtue of being paid less and being in a league that generates less revenue, are closer to our position than they are to the ruling class position in terms of their income, not in terms of their class position. And by that, I mean, like, there's a higher capacity, I would theorize, right? I would posit there's a higher capacity to actually organize these players in the direction that we would want, because until this contract, they were making less than I would have been making in legal services. Their lowest paid players. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, even though they had all the trappings of a professional athlete, the way they had to live their life, for many of them, the ones who don't get all the sponsorship deals and don't get all these things, they're getting paid essentially below minimum wage if you're thinking about the time they're putting into honing their craft, right? So they are, for all intents and purposes, more real people than even the lowest paid NFL player in some ways, or even the lowest paid basketball player, and certainly the lowest paid baseball player, which doesn't mean that those other players aren't workers, but their ability to understand class struggle is different than a WNBA player's ability to understand class struggle because of that low income and because of their position relative to management and ownership. We did in BNB some political education back in 2024 about our athletes workers, our professionalized athletes workers, right? As a way to help understand class position in sports and just understanding the players, the workers, obviously. But if we were to ask who's middle management and who are the bosses, we know the owners are the bosses and the coaches, and the people who do general management are the middle managers. So understanding those relationships, even if the players make more money than the coaches, they still don't have full control over their labor. You know what I'm saying? A coach can decide to play them or not. We just saw that with the Warriors, with them not playing Jonathan Kuminga for months before they traded him away. So yeah, just some thoughts about that, right? But 100% political.
I mean, or even with the Grizzlies, how they was doing John Morant. And
100%.
also, it was pissing me off because then they traded Jaren Jackson Jr., which was dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
And pissed the whole city off. I said, not y'all done pissed the whole city off. It was crazy.
Yeah. Yes. And that's another
And now they
rabbit hole
getting
too.
desperate because they got these new players that came in that nobody gives a fuck about.
Yeah.
Because, like you're saying, although these folks are workers, they are in our communities, and people do get like attached to them, build relationships with them. Jerry Jackson had a whole nonprofit. Like he was doing a lot of work in Memphis. They pissed everybody off with that, and now they like desperate to get these tickets sold for the next season. I said, hate it for you.
Yeah. 100%.
After they just convinced our city to revitalize part of downtown because they said they didn't want to stay in Memphis unless this downtown got revitalized, so more people would come down there. Whole time, you the problem. We're not coming down there because we don't want to come to them fucking games.
Yeah. It's hilarious how that works. Right? I think that's a perfect example of they're basically willing to lose money by not selling tickets, by trading away their best players. Because they know they're still going to be profitable, and they know year over year they will cut costs by not having to pay out that salary. You know, they're not confused about these things, and the WNBA owners are not some drastically different group of people who somehow misunderstand how it makes sense to make money in a league. You know, like they get it too, which is why the second people are celebrating the contract, you got to have some questions about what are we? Let's just be clear about what we're celebrating. You know, we can celebrate some material increases and also have serious concerns and critiques of overall what this relationship looks like and what's being entrenched for another 6 years, by the way. Because I guarantee
I really am wondering about that, like the relationship part. I'm glad they got a better contract, but like the relationship between the WNBA owners, the commissioner lady, and the players is very strange. Like very strained. Like the way Nafisa Collier was calling that lady out, I said, oh, they're beefed out. She want to whoop her ass. Like that doesn't change because they got a better contract.
That's right.
So I was like, what does that change for like the culture for the workers? Because they're already talking about how they're not being listened to by coaches. Angel has said that the coaches aren't listening to them, the training staff aren't listening to them, the owners don't listen to them around like what the team needs. They're tired of losing. They don't want to be on losing. The same team wins every time. They're over it. Like eventually that's gonna cause a strain. And because, you know, like you've been saying about the owners and the coaches and the commissioner lady, like they're focused on money and their bottom dollar. They're not even thinking about that. And so they don't really want to make the teams better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just wanted to add on to the psychology of the negotiation, because I think that's really what I was most drawn to. Last week, we talked about making maximum demands. Like you should be asking for more than you think you're going to get because you already know. First of all, our maximum demands are often just like the actual value of our labor, which is completely fair, but in the capitalism, that's immoral. So you can't do that. So we start negotiating down. But truly, I think the fact that it takes so long, that they wait, they have a million processes, the fact that they discipline probably the most outspoken members, and then the fact that they just wear you down and start you off on demands that aren't historic. So I really appreciated where you were like, they just want you to look from contract to contract. They do not want you to look broader than that. They don't want you to ask these questions. They don't want you to just be like, yo, why are you starting lower than the men in the first place? And I feel like that is actually the starting question when we talk about Black women's labor that should be asked. But it's probably not, as we're saying. There's a lot of factors at play. Now, I know we're going to do the scary identity politics. Oh, my God. You know, my favorite, but everyone else copies what white people say with that word. Aaliyah mentions, I feel another factor is sexuality. There are so many queer, masculine presenting women in the WNBA, and that challenges profitability, marketability, because they can't be sexualized. You want to say anything about that? I think that's a really important comment.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the owners are happy that they don't have to compensate for marketing stuff like that. Like they would be happy to outsource that to different companies and different people who are willing to pay to help people make money based off of their personality, their identity. If you watch the games like on TV and you see the commercials, obviously you have a lot of I've seen like underwear ads, I've seen makeup ads, fashion ads. But yeah, there's a very particular profile of player who's getting, and it's just femmes. It's not whether they're, you know, basically the masculine presenting players are never going to be getting those type of deals or those sort of
Hey, dude, wait, man.
What's up? Go ahead.
They do be getting deals.
Yeah,
Stud Buds has like huge financing. Like
100%.
somebody's paying for all their live stream stuff. They got merch. Also, there's a few of the masculine presenting players who are in mainstream commercials. I've definitely seen Kelsey Plum. You know, she's more masculine presenting now after she got divorced. But I've definitely seen Kelsey Plum in mainstream
Yeah,
media stuff. I also see a lot of ads on TikTok and Instagram from
yeah,
big companies with the more masculine presenting players. I just think that maybe you won't see it on TV, but I don't see it on TV anyways. I don't have TV. Like I don't have
yeah,
cable. I wouldn't see it anyways. And it's actually more smart because most people are on TikTok and Instagram. So I do think they aren't getting as many deals. But I
right.
will say over the last 2-3 years, I've seen a huge increase. Like the way that Stud Buzz was marketed as a partnership with the WNBA All Stars weekend
Yeah,
was they were the only ones with official access to everything. Like
yeah.
that's a huge partnership for two obviously masculine presenting women who a little
Yeah,
problematic sometimes.
I mean,
Like
we can go
I
into
think
that
that
too.
that's a huge deal for them. Also, what's that girl name who dating Paige?
Daisy.
Yeah, you know she's more masculine presenting, and she has a whole podcast on Wondery.
I was gonna say, Amber, I think you're right. This is a dialectic. I think there's some parts of capital that want to commercialize and see this as like a clear opportunity. But as you said, TV, old school kind of, capital, American family values, right? That
Mhm.
wing of the capitalist class is not going to want to support these folks. So I definitely think we're in the Instagram,
But I
TikTok
don't
era,
see
influencer era.
the players
But
doing those kind of ads anyways, though. I
No.
mean, Angel Reese was
true.
doing the Victoria's Secret fashion show
Mm-hmm.
and Fashion
Mhm.
Nova.
Yeah,
Like they aren't even the
That's true.
feminine ones aren't doing that. So
yeah,
I think
True. When I think
regardless, I think
about
it's
mhm.
because they're in the WNBA and they don't fuck with them like that. Like they don't
sure.
want to say like this is a family thing that you should be like your kids should aspire to this. And I actually do think I feel like I've seen a little bit of messaging to try to gear more people towards that, like saying no, like your child should aspire to play
Mm-hmm.
like a girl and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But it's not as prominent as the men's sports shit.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was gonna say like the liberal aspect. I remember when we were kids, there was the anything you can do, I can do better. And it was like this white woman and Michael Jordan, and they're like doing the same sport side by side. And so I definitely feel like that is a part of it. And then again, I'm saying individually, these folks can pull into any market that they really want. Like you said, Angel Reese can go to Victoria's Secret. They know how to play the game, and that's just the era we're in. But I will say
Mhm.
again, compared to the MNBA, who they're policed. Like these black players are told to be professional, how they talk, how they speak, all of that. I think there is a certain contradiction with queer players that just cannot be policed in that way. Like
yeah,
if you are American values conservative, like the Super Bowl, and you're anti-LGBTQ, but you can't avoid it with the WNBA. It's not like the NBA or the NFL where it's closeted. It's in your face. So you're gonna have to either be like, "This is cool, I accept it," or "I'm taking a stand." And so I think
sure.
it forces that. Yeah.
Yeah. I would also add, like just to go to the comment, right? Like the tendency is one thing versus some exceptions. So 100% the stud buds. There's always going to be exceptions to the general rule, which is that, like, especially in a league where there's just a higher presence of people of whether it's genderqueer identities or not traditional women identities or whatever you want to call it, right? So like that's a real thing, and there
Mhm.
are certainly people who, whether it's like you said on TikTok or on places that are not maybe fully mainstreamed or places that people traditionally get their sports from, are getting the ability to market themselves or whatever. Studbuds is I think a huge outlier example, just because they had, like you said, they had access and things that people don't regularly get. WNBA period, let alone people of their identity in
I think it's a good
WNBA.
example of like what's possible, and maybe they can get, maybe other folks can get more opportunities. But like I said before, it is very recent. I do
Sure,
think that we're seeing the
exactly,
tide changing, but because it's
exactly.
very recent that I've been seeing these things. But I do think that the popularity of WNBA games and players has helped them a lot. And I know somebody mentioned something about Chelsea Gray. I have seen her do stuff, not mainstream stuff like on the news or whatever, because I don't watch the news, but I have seen her get deals because I
Yeah.
saw a thing about her family because I didn't know she was married, had a wife and like kids. And there
Hmm.
was a thing that played during a game about her kid and her like rolling the ball to him. It was like a whole little cute thing. But I mean, that's the only thing I've seen. So I will say I don't think that she gets, like she doesn't get the big deals. And I agree with folks who were saying she's fine, because she is fine. But maybe also I said maybe we should consider maybe she specifically only wants to do family content.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
that could be it too. I don't really see her do things that aren't related to her family lately. So it could be like a shift that she's making. But I would hope to see like more representation for like masculine presenting families, if that's what she wants to do. Like I want her to get, bigger deals for that. And I know there was a comment that somebody highlighted to that somebody wanted to bring up, but I got to go in a few minutes, so I wanted to make sure I said that because I saw the gay comment.
No, that's real. And I'll, just to that point, if we're channeling our inner Jareds, right? Like we understand that's a dialectic too, right? So we know what it means to be represented within this particular structure, and how that can be dangerous and how that can be sort of co-optation, and also normalizing what it means to be a family, or breaking what is normed as family is important. And just in terms of shaping how we understand each other in a society. So both of those things matter. But in terms of the corporate part of it, I would have questions about the intentions of people who, not the people who are receiving the money, but the people who are trying to pay for that representation. It's just both sides of the dialectic.
Yeah. And I know Amber's got to go. Maybe we can close out here for y'all fans who want to attend the games. Can you talk about the majority of working class fans being priced out from attending the games or having season? Oh, I know you know.
Yes. Let me just say this. And I think this is actually a good lesson, because I live in New York and I go to all the Liberty games because I have season tickets. I've been a direct, and so I don't care. Like,
part of the problem.
Oh yeah, I'm part of the problem. And the thing is, the critique will come, especially because of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to run away from the critique because I go to the games. I don't give a fuck about that. Like, I don't like this particular dynamic because somebody on Reddit, basically there's a bunch of season ticket holders who made a spreadsheet showing the change in ticket prices year over year. I couldn't find the spreadsheet yesterday and the day before. I was looking and I asked a friend to find it for me and they couldn't find it either. But yeah, it's and it's just, again, it's proof that ownership does not care about the players and doesn't care about the fans. They care about how much money they make. So it doesn't matter to them if there are empty seats in a few places, because they know that they have some, especially if they've already sold the tickets. They don't care about resale market. They've already sold the tickets. They probably have already calculated what it means to sell every season ticket or to sell every ticket in the arena. So it's cold calculation. It's not, they don't care about the quality of it, and they sort of depend on us to bring the energy and to bring the hype and the excitement, and they get to benefit from it. And if we're being real spicy, right, that is like some captive maternal shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're actually they have an expectation that we're going to do a particular form of labor for them, which is make the environment special and make the environment one that they can brag about without contributing anything to it. So season ticket holders, just from experience, you don't get anything. We got a blanket this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get anything. You just pay a lot of money. And the price.
You get parking, or you got to pay parking? You got to pay separate? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, there's no parking, bro. It's New York. So there's garages, but you know what I'm saying?
You don't get that for the Grizzlies game either. They tried to get me to get a season ticket thing, and I was like, no, you don't even get a deal. Like, you got to pay extra for that. Like, you can pay up front and get like a little discount. Also, this is Tommy that I know. That's who took me to my first WNBA game. He the best.
Hey.
What's up, Tommy?
There was another comment I want to look at. Oh, yeah. Someone said the stud buds kind of had to build themselves up to the point where they couldn't deny them, in my opinion. Yes. Mm-hmm. And you know how they did that? From TikTok. TikTok and IG, but definitely TikTok. I feel like all the WNBA players who go live a lot, especially, like, they would get clips from those would go viral. That's how they really built up their thing. I forgot the name of that girl who played with Angel Chicago, who was Brazilian, tall, light skin with colored hair.
Yeah.
Tommy know who I'm talking about.
A player right now?
Yeah, she was
playing. Camila,
with
Cardoza. Yeah.
Camila, yeah. She used to go live all the time.
Really?
And so like she would get a lot of like viral clips from that because she was always going live. And I honestly didn't understand the idea that like you just sit in front of a camera while you're just doing whatever you're doing is just dumb as hell to me. Like, she would be on there doing totally different things. How do you focus on that much stuff at one time? I don't know. But I don't want people having that much access to me. But yeah, she was drafted in the same class as her. And I remember her going to the same team as her. Yeah, but that's how she got like a lot of popularity is from like the different clips of them. Studbuzz getting like random clips from their podcast. It'll be posted, not even by them. A lot of times it'd be other people, and it just boosted their popularity.
Sure, and you can imagine the alternate universe where, because it seems like players sort of have to do this sort of thing to make themselves more marketable because they're not getting paid enough. That's like the sort of full circle, right? In other leagues, the men's leagues, people still do the same stuff. They want to make themselves marketable, but their bottom line is not as directly tied to their survival is not as directly tied to their ability to be marketable. They get paid a lot off rip.
And there's like so much in that about like how much access people have to you. Like I have to make myself so available to make this amount of money. Like they shouldn't have to do that. And so I do think that that's one thing I like about the new contract is like maybe they'll be able to have like some privacy.
Yeah.
Like maybe they'll be able to like have their own private lives and not have to like be on live for hours at a time or post TikTok dances so they can get attention because other than that, they're not gonna get any deals on the side. And you know, that's the only way they can really pay their bills. Like that's my hope for people is that they can control the access people have to them. They deserve privacy. They have agency over what that looks like. And right now I don't feel like they do.
Yeah, 100%. And it could, again, if we're just talking, we're bringing it full circle, right? There's real material gains in the contract. I'm not going to sit here and act like there's not. It's a real thing. And also there's some, because everything is dialectical and everything is being produced across history, the way negotiations happened in this contract and the things that they accepted as okay, and the things they did not fight for, and the things that they ended up sort of negotiating around will be carried to the next contract fight. So I would be curious to know how they learned from this, whether they even perceive this as a thing to be critiqued, and then how that critique would actually push them to fight differently in the next contract. Because, you know, 20% of gross revenue, which is what they ended up getting in this contract, allegedly, is just unacceptable when you compare it to the other sports. So what is it going to look like for them to really fight for something that's respecting their labor, you know,
especially
and that's
with the
actually
revenue
what
sharing
they're
thing,
owed.
right? That's the revenue sharing model thing.
Yeah. So revenue sharing is like after the league year ends, they look at league revenues and they pay teams out based on what the revenues were. So it's paying for being able to pay for contracts and also being able to pay for expenses and whatnot. So the revenue sharing is one thing, but their slice of the pie is 20%. As opposed to the other leagues that we were talking about, which are all 50%, around 50% or higher. And like I said before, the NBA's first contract, before you could make any arguments about profitability or whatever, those dudes were getting 53%, which they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm actually saying that they should get more, actually, but that the WNBA players starting at 20, it just tells you, by the way, 30 years into being a league, it's not like it's new. So 30 years into the league, their first contract with revenue sharing is 20%, whereas the first CBA for the NBA in 1983 was 53%. So you just gotta see those differences, I think, and then it would inform how you fight for your next contract. Yeah.
Amber, you gotta head out, or are you still hanging with us for the
last chilling with us?
I got a few minutes.
There
Yeah,
we go.
Maddie. What Maddie said.
A few minutes left.
And what made you go by Maddie instead of Matt?
Just because I've experienced a lot of Matts in my life, so to differentiate myself a little bit at a while.
I'm gonna be a Maddie. I know that's right.
Yeah.
No, it's giving branding.
Yeah.
I wanted
as a worker.
That's
right.
If y'all liked Brother Maddie's analysis here, check out previous Theory Thursdays that Black Men Build has done. One is Are Athletes Workers, which is pretty cool. And then another one that we had was $1 Million Slaves, Kendrick, Tyreek Hill, and the Plantation mentality in the NFL. And I think we were joined by none other than...
You just don't read, beloved.
Hiram Rivera.
He was there.
He was there for that one. Yeah. Check out Black Men Builds. You know, we kind of got a nice catalog. You know, we got smart brothers like this who do some PE there. And I wanted to highlight this comment. when we talk about workers, class consciousness, you made it really clear, like all the reasons why, as Black women workers, the WNBA are closer to the everyday working class in terms of their conditions and their consciousness. I also wanted to point out this sort of thing in the NBA. I've seen this in, we have friends who are physicians, so in the doctor field as well, which kind of ruins their class consciousness, where you have somebody who might be a pediatrician in the community making a good salary, but still more worker conscious. And then you have some plastic surgeon in Miami making $900,000 a year. And so how that makes them not have class solidarity, I'm wondering about that at the NBA level.
Sure.
Because we've seen a lot of these capitalists like LeBron, Steph Curry, and when you look at their salaries, it's a completely different scale. So,
right.
Yeah.
Just let's just think about it, right? Like, or observe what happens. Maybe that's the best. It's not just thinking about it, but let's just look at what they do. So Amber's talking about correctly what the WNBA players have to do to just make a living, which is be more accessible and available in a TikTok or in advertising. And NBA players do the same thing, but what they do with their money, the second you start making that much money, what I observe is them adopting ownership mentality. Like there's going to be an expansion team in Las Vegas for the NBA, and LeBron James is understood to be a front runner to be in the ownership group, to be part of the ownership group of that team. So everything they do, when you watch their podcast, when you read the things that they say, it's structured around how much money can I make, whether it's while I'm in the league or after. So where can I invest my money? What's my portfolio like? That's how they talk. And that's who's in their ear telling them how to live their lives once they become a professional player and become rich. So
and I just want to add,
go ahead.
Who are enjoying this conversation, now's a great time to send us super chats or donate on Patreon. Make sure that you're following our page. You click the little notification thing to get notified when we go live again. Make sure y'all are commenting, liking, and subscribing, because we can't keep bringing great people like Maddie if y'all are not going to show us how much you appreciate it. That's all I'm saying. I am going. I'm on the show from an undisclosed location, and I risked it all to make sure I got on this joint. So I'm gonna need at least $100.
At least.
Absolutely. Super chats support us, but again, join us on Patreon as well. Josh helps us. So Josh and Aaliyah are also, we got behind the scenes folk who need some support too. Okay, they helping us out. Josh puts her run sheets together. He says MLB already got $700 million players. Yep. And then Aaliyah,
I was just gonna say, Mookie Betts my cousin by marriage, by the way. I know I mentioned that earlier. He's not my cousin by blood, by marriage, but yeah, he a top player. Like, that nigga making buku's money.
It's nuts.
Aaliyah says next time we should do a deep dive on Black women boxers. Will be fire convo. Absolutely. Noted suggestion. Maddie, you were talking about this,
now,
and
that
then
is
again,
I do know about, so that would be great.
Oh yeah,
you know about this too. What are you talking about? You know about this clearly.
I like women's sports, so I do pay attention. I really fuck with women boxers. One of my friends is a boxer. She's done like a low class thing before. Like, she only did like one fight, and she does jiu-jitsu. So I pay attention to women boxers a lot, and I pay attention to women basketball. Not as much in the other sports, unless it's like during the Olympics. I might watch some of the women in the other sports, but mostly just basketball, boxing. I watch like the softball college championships when they're like on, but that's about it.
Well, we got.
That's why I say Amber's a boxing fan. I am a boxing fan. I like to watch niggas get beat up.
Or beat niggas up. You know, it's just too. This dialect.
Whoop that trick. I'm from Memphis. I love watching somebody get their ass beat.
It's built for you.
I enjoy the beating, not the ass getting beat. But yeah. Any other last thoughts? We actually are going to make time today. MMA Amber coming soon. Y'all can watch. That's on Patreon.
I won't be doing any combat sports. I care a lot about my face. I did play basketball in middle school. The ball hit me in the face, and I never played again. So I did make it through one game, and I realized
put your fingers up and then get jammed on your finger.
I did that, and then this girl had hit me, and I wanted to fight her. So it was too much. I felt like that was a little too aggressive for a middle school summer league. Ain't no championship, bitch. What are you doing all this for? It was too much. So I said, no. I'm good, because I go to jail beating somebody up at 13. I said, no. I'm good. So this is as far as I made it.
He let it.
I'll stick with watching. I'm a little too aggressive.
Okay.
Hey.
Yes, I
Maddie,
embrace
you had
that.
any last minute thoughts, other things you want to point people to? All the links you shared us will be in
Yeah.
our show description. So go ahead and look at the link down there if you want to catch.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I just really advocate for understanding this as a class issue and understanding this as a Black women's labor issue. So we are really channeling our inner Claudia Jones when we read about and learn about things like this. And that's where,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Come on,
saying?
Maddie.
That's right. Well, that's where we should be coming from, because we have to understand this as that, like it's the convergence of all those things at once. And when you just put things side by side, and do a little bit of abstraction and just ask simple questions like, how much are they actually owed? You're saying pay us what you owe us. What are they owed? And you ask questions about what are the owners capable of paying versus what are they willing to pay. Those are important things to ask and to be thinking about when it comes to assessing this sort of thing. And it's such a good entry point to political thought and understanding to use sports in this
Yeah.
way. So because people are engaged and people actually enjoy it. It is addictive. Like, it's not just a fun thing. Like, the feeling that you get from watching and enjoying sports is a thing that people are really attached to. So seeing it that way and seeing it as a class issue and understanding that, especially for WNBA, these are people who we could potentially organize because they're not super rich and they are not able to access the same sort of privileges that the professional male players are. Strategically, it would be great to be able to organize with them and help them win a better contract. And we didn't even get to bargaining for the common good and having a contract that actually extends the community and supports people beyond just them as workers. There's so many great examples that could be set in the next contract. So that's my hope. But I also hope that we understand and approach sports in this way.
Yeah, I would love for you to come back, Maddie, and talk about boxing, because I definitely think that there's like some really good examples there. And I mean, I had the same questions, like, why aren't we paying them the same as men? Because realistically, they have the same impact. And I know that that's all rooted in, sexism and other stuff. But I do think it's a good conversation that we should have, especially when we're thinking about labor, the extensive labor that folks are doing in these sports leagues. I mean, to me, the idea of just like not having any rest is just so unhealthy. But I also think that they use the fact that these women love playing this sport against them. Like, Angel Reese was talking about how much she loves the sport all the time, right? Like, they just want to play the sport that they love. And they will use that like rhetoric and be like, well, then you should just be willing to accept this. And that's really what they were trying to do in this bargaining situation. And I'm so glad that they didn't fall for that, because it's bullshit.
Right.
And that they were able to get, a better contract, because they really did need it and they deserved it, but they definitely needed it to stop, like, putting so much wear and tear on their bodies.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. And, the last comment that's in here is about the fact that unions work. And so, like everything, unions are dialectical. 100%, like, their union could be stronger, I think, is the argument here. So what's grounding their analysis? And then how is that driving how they fight for a contract? So the union in and of itself is a good thing to have, but how you use it and how it operates, because unions can be very captured by management too, and be the opposite of what they're supposed to be. So we should just understand it that way, and then ask, like, how do we actually fight effectively with the union, and how can they do that too? So yeah, it's a great example for all of these reasons.
Yeah. And thanks to Anonymous Grasshopper for the $10 super sticker.
Thank you for the donation. I wanted to start closing this out. We hit 10 o'clock, so thank y'all for joining us. We had some tech difficulties earlier, but glad you made it here. I want to ask everyone what they got going on. First, I just want to note we got 3 topics, Maddie, in the future: Black women's boxing, bargaining for the common good. And I also want to talk about sports gambling and betting. Because
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a huge
I
part
can't
of
wait
this
for that
conversation.
one.
So, Maddie, come on back. Amber, what you got going on this week or weekend that you want to tell people about?
I don't have anything going on. I'm going to go write some more songs later today.
That's what's up.
That's about it.
Beautiful. Well, I'll share for Black Men Build. Not any events particularly this weekend, but I did want to highlight some great work that's been posted by us. If you don't follow, please do. One, if you want to hear more from Maddie, as we mentioned, Theory Thursdays on athletes and workers, you could check out our YouTube channel, our website for that. There's also articles for the most recent wartime, which Amber will be getting one day, Josh promises. And it is No More Black Overseers, No More House Negroes. Maddie wrote this one. very relevant to the concept of the Black Miss Leadership class that we've been discussing so much. So if you haven't gotten the
Especially
newest
just
sports
announced Jay-Z headlining the Roots Picnic.
I sure saw that. Yeah, we dragged him out. The Fowls dragged him out of retirement. So he back.
Uninspired, unexcited,
uninspired, and lazy. I also wanted to share our article on what would Malcolm X do today. It was beautiful. Brother Siraj, who was in the chat, was part of the audio for it, but it's a high school conversation. So 2 students and an elder are having a conversation about what Malcolm would do today. And it's got some audio as well as the script that you can read along, act out, anything like that. So part of our effort to honor ancestor Omowale after 100 years. So just want to recommend all that good work. Check it out when you can. And yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for coming through, y'all. Thanks to the infamous chat. As Jared says, as Fred Hampton used to say, and as we say, peace if you're willing to fight for it. And we'll catch you next time on Black Liberation.
Peace, y'all.
Ooh, hold on. I got us. I don't know. The outro
Not
crazy.
the video, not there.
I know. It's messed up, y'all. I'm sorry.
Black Liberation Media is a collective of Black and African organizers, journalists, academics, and media personalities serving Black and African masses seeking to further grow in their understanding of themselves, their histories, and the African world through entertainment and news. Please continue to like, subscribe, and donate to the channel so we can further serve you and liberate our people. You can also go to blkliberationmedia.org, get some merchandise, and also become a Patreon member and a member from the YouTube. Please do what you can, share, and show your love as we will show ours for you. Black Liberation Media.